Welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast, your safe space to finally focus on YOU. I'm Chari Twitty-Hawkins, your self-care coach for moms, praying wife, and mom of four. And I know that being a Christ-centered mom is such a beautiful calling, but it can be so draining. That's why it's important to make sure you are filling your own cup. On this podcast, we'll discuss practical, holistic self-care strategies to help nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Because a mama who fills her own cup pours that back into her family with true peace and joy. Tune in for honest conversations about motherhood and self-care because you matter too. Blessings, mamas, and welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I am Chari Twitty-Hawkins, your host and self-care coach for moms. And as we are already here into a new year, 2025, I like to talk a little bit about your mental wellness because January is Mental Wellness Month. And this is a great month to have that because we're starting in a new year. We're talking about doing new things, renewing our minds, like I talked about on our previous podcast episode. So I encourage you to ask yourself, how are you feeling as you are starting a new year, as you're starting a new day? Because we know with motherhood, sometimes we're just trying to get through the day, right? But ask yourself, how are you feeling? Are you making space for your mental wellness? And if you're not, I encourage you to make sure you save this episode and listen to it now and listen to it again later and take notes. It's so important for us as moms to make sure we are making our mental wellness a priority because as the scripture in Proverbs says, to guard your heart because everything that you do flows from it. So if you're not taking care of your mental wellness and you're frustrated, you're irritated, you're burnt out, then the way that you perform your job, if you have one, the way that you mother, the way that you're a wife, if you're married, your relationship with God, all of that is going to be affected by your lack of making sure that you are mentally well. And mental wellness is knowing your own capabilities and being able to deal with the stresses of life and still having a positive mindset. That's why I had the capacity coach, Nicole Rohn, on a few episodes ago, because we talked about the importance of knowing your capacity, knowing what you are able to handle, because a lot of us are pushing past our capacity and living in a state of exhaustion, overwhelm, and burnout. And we want to make sure that we are avoiding that in 2025 and beyond. So whatever goals you have for 2025, whether that's to be a better mother, a better woman, hopefully, have a stronger relationship with God, work out more, eat healthier, whatever that is for you. If you're going for, you say, hey, I want to step out and live my God-inspired purpose, like we talked about in a previous episode, then it's so important for you to make sure you're saying, hey, how am I doing mentally? How am I going to process this mentally and not just jump in there and, as we say, react? It's better to be proactive than be reactive. So whatever goals you have, just really sit and think about those right now. And then think about what could possibly come up that would be a stressor for you, that would trigger you? What obstacles will come up? And then think about, hey, mentally, how am I going to overcome these? Because we definitely don't want them to stop us. And that's why it's important to be emotionally intelligent, to know your emotions and how they feel, and then how you react when you have those emotions. Because if you don't, again, if you're not proactive about it, you can let those emotions drown you. Especially if you're like me. A lot of you guys know, if you're watching on good old YouTube, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I know y'all see these gray hairs. I'm going through perimenopause, so I'm learning myself again. And part of that is I can often be very emotional. My husband and I, we were talking about this. We had our date night the other night, and I was like, man, we need to talk about perimenopause more because men don't understand it and women don't understand it. So just understanding that when you go through different seasons of life, like for instance, perimenopause, things are going to change. You're going to process things mentally and emotionally differently. So knowing that in advance and saying, hey, I'm going to be proactive about being more in tune with my emotional intelligence, which is, again, knowing what your emotions are and how to process them in a healthy way, and knowing others' emotions as well is going to help you a lot in the long run. And some great mental wellness practices you can start to integrate in 2025 and beyond is mindful journaling. So writing down your emotions and how they make you feel. and how you're going to process them, as I said before, in a healthy way. So write those feelings down, even the ones you don't want to admit. Maybe you're jealous. Maybe you feel resentful. Write those down because you're going to continue to feel it unless you process it and work it out. And another is breathing exercises that help you relieve and release your anxiety so you don't go off on people. And one that I love to do that I taught in one of my classes is called a butterfly hug. Another is box breathing, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, and then release it for 4. And you do that over and over again until you feel more in control and more relaxed. And here's a sample self-care, mental wellness routine that you can do throughout the day. So maybe not just in the morning or not at night, but throughout the day, because we know stressors can come from left and right. Oh my goodness, right? So in the morning, you can be intentional about setting your mood for the day by speaking positive affirmations. That's why I wrote my book, Self-Care Affirmations for Moms, so that we can learn how to speak positivity and God-inspired words over our lives. So starting your morning, speaking positive words, speaking what you want in your life. So I'm an amazing mother. I am going to conquer this day. I am in control of my feelings. I will show myself grace today. Those are just some examples. And then in the middle of the day, maybe it's after you pick up kids, maybe it's while you're at work and things are getting stressful, or even if they're not. Again, this is a routine, so it's something you want to make a habit. Checking in with yourself and saying, okay, let me take this time to just breathe and center myself and practice gratitude and thank God for all He has given me. And you can take that time to write it down or type it in your phone or on your laptop so you can come back and review it later. And then at night, take that time to celebrate you, to celebrate all that you have accomplished, even those micro wins, even those small things, and saying, hey, I did a good job. Let me pat myself on the back. And this is a great time as well when you can take time to journal your feelings, how you felt throughout the day. And if there's anything that you want to adjust, like maybe a negative feeling, then you can write down how you're going to process that. So I encourage you to take one of these. You can write them all down. As I said before, make sure you save this, come back and listen and take notes, but choose one mental wellness practice that you are going to start integrating in your life. And I just want to again talk about why it's so important for us to do this, because a lot of us, as our moms raised us or grandmas or whoever raised you, you may have felt like maybe the only emotion you saw from them was anger. I'm currently reading Jennifer Lewis's memoir, and she talks about how she feels like maybe she did it to protect herself because of the trauma. Because y'all know, we don't know what our mamas went through. But when we become moms, then we're like, oh my gosh, maybe this is why she was acting that way. So she was like, she felt like maybe she went through different traumas and she felt sorry for her. But at the same time, she felt like the main emotion that she felt from her mom was anger. So we don't want to be that for our children. When I was reading, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want my children to see me that way, to feel like the only emotion or the prevailing emotion that they got from their mother when they were being raised was anger. So that, again, is why this is so important to be intentional about saying, hey, I'm going to do these things to make sure my mental wellness is in a good and healthy place, because it affects those around us, especially, of course, those who are closest to us and live with us and those we are raising. So make sure you are making this an intentional part of your 2025 so that you can reclaim your inner peace and your joy and your God-given purpose that He has for you to receive the best in life, because that's what He wants for you, the same way you want the best for your children. So please, mamas, if you haven't, leave a review for this episode. If it blessed you, share with the mama you love and save and listen to it again later. I will see you next time. For those who are on YouTube, for those who are listening, I will chat with you next time. Until then, take care. God bless. Thanks so much for joining me for the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I hope you feel inspired to make yourself a priority too. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Share this podcast with another mama you love and leave a review. Also, feel free to let me know what you would like to hear about in future episodes by visiting me on Instagram at CIC Inspire Me. Until next time, take some time to take care of YOU because you matter too.